Namaste. So we are in the middle, almost, of Advent. By the end of today, we'll be in the middle of Advent. Well, Wednesday, we'll be in the middle of Advent. And I'm going through this 4-part series on the Four Noble Truths, and also undertaking the very noble task of trying to tie them each to the Advent theme for the week. And I don't know how successful I'll be at that yet, because I don't want to worry about the 4th week until we get there, because I'm having a hard enough time with the 2nd week. First week worked out. I think this week will work out. I'm a little iffy about number 4. Anyway, we said last week that the first noble truth was that one of the following, or maybe all of the following: suffering exists, unsatisfactoriness exists, things don't always work out the way we would like them to, and other similar kinds of ideas. Shit happens. That's one of my favorites. Sometimes life sucks. All this is true. And so the second noble truth is the cause of suffering, or the cause of unsatisfactoriness, or the cause of sometimes life sucks. And the answer to what that cause is that it's clinging, or attachment, or not being able to come to terms with the fact that if wishes were horses, dreamers would ride. I have a garage door opener that works perfectly. Spring, summer, and fall. Push the little button, door goes up. Push it again, it comes down. But when they put it in, they didn't screw the front end of the rail that's right above the door into anything, so it kind of floats. And when it gets cold, it doesn't want to float. And so I have to get out of the car and either have the button with me, or if Erin's in the car, have her push the button, and I have to help it lift up past those places where it will hitch. And right now, because of where the temperature's been, there's only one. But when it gets in the low 20s, there'll be 2 spots, and I'll have to hold it all the way up, and I'll have to then help it come down. Now, I could let that frustrate me. And it does sometimes frustrate me, I'll be honest. The colder it is, the more it frustrates me. But I could add the frustration of wishing that it was otherwise when I can't do anything about it. And then I'd be doubly frustrated. I think I've said before, the Dalai Lama loves to quote Shantideva, who was an 8th century Buddhist master, who said, "There's no point in worrying. If you're worried about something and you can change it, change it. Don't worry about it. And if you're worried about something and you can't do anything to change it, what's the point in worrying?" And the same thing is true of attachment. Yes, we all have ways we would like things to be. And I'm going to say that that's normal. Where it becomes a problem is when we hang our happiness on things being the way we want it to be. I don't know if you ever did this, or if I was the only weird kid that ever did this, but I used to see when I was little if I could think hard enough if something would move. Do you ever do that?
Oh yeah, especially after reading Carrie.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that chalice, right? Well, then as an adult, I found this really cool knife. And it was this little blade about like this, but fat, and it had a fat little handle. And it wasn't like most pocket knives, where either you push something on the back or you slide something over on the bottom to close it. The handle was hinged where the blade came out, and it was in 2 halves. And what you had to do was ever so slightly push the half closest to you forward and the one furthest away back. So you were, doing like this with it. But it was much more subtle than that. And I would, say to the grandkids, "I'm going to close this with my mind." And, it was such a subtle little shift, they couldn't catch it. And I'd make a face, I'd go, and then I'd pop, and it would close. And they would take it and try and close it, They'd be thinking and thinking. Well, hopefully, some point we get beyond trying to move the cup with our mind. But there's many, many more subtle things that we never get beyond trying to change. Not so much because we believe now that thinking can change it, but maybe wishing can change it. Or we hang our happiness on just getting or doing that something. And that first reading detailed a lot of those things. If I just get the right vacation, you know. And I'll never forget, God, it was God awful, it was embarrassing. A presentation once at an event I had organized, and this couple had gone on a trip to the UK. And I thought, well, it would be nice, they were part of the group, if they could tell us about their trip. And while they were there, they decided that they were going to avoid the tourist routes and the tourist sites. They were going to go on the back roads. And do you know that those people on the back roads who didn't live in the touristy areas were not ready to accommodate their every need? Can you believe that the restaurants were not accommodating to their particular dietary peculiarities? I mean, it was The Ugly American, if you ever heard about that book, Come Home. And the longer it went on, you know, the more I was like, oh my God. But in that moment...
You mean the fish and chips aren't gluten-free?
Exactly. That sums it up perfectly. And they couldn't cope with the fact that these people wouldn't accommodate their wishes. So their vacation was ruined. And I struggled to cope with the fact that this presentation seemed like it was never going to end. And we really, all of us, needed to just let go of it, as uncomfortable as it was, and bear through it. Now that's a relatively benign example, but there's bigger things in our lives. And especially when it comes to things like illness, whether our own or that of a loved one. We wish it was different. But the best we can do is the best we can do. And that's make sure that people get the best treatment available. And then beyond that, attend to their person and not run away from it. Not say I'm not going to visit this person because things aren't working out the way they're supposed to in my mind, and I can't face that truth. Because all that does is damage to everybody. Jesus, in this, probably one of his more famous, or well, I shouldn't say famous, well-known stories, talks about essentially nature being the way it is, nature being happy with the way it is, and we, for all of our efforts, in at least some ways, will never match the splendor of nature. A tree never complains when its leaves are changing colors and are going to fall off. But how many people do you hear complain when their hair is changing colors and starts to fall off?
Speaking of which.
Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, beyond it.
I'll just get a toupee.
That's right.
No.
We don't know.
That's right, the flip. But, and there too, though, we have the choice. Some of that we can do something about. If it really bothers us, we can color our hair and get a toupee. But if it really bothers us a lot, and we're going to know what's underneath, that may not be enough to get past it. And so sooner or later, we have to come to accept it. And so what does all this have to do with the theme of the week, which is facing forward, love? Nothing gets in the way of love more than craving and attachment. Whether it's, I wish you were different, or I'm afraid you're going to leave, or you are supposed to make me happy, or you are not the same person you were when I married you, or your friends, even. You aren't meeting my needs. And we have all these expectations, all of this craving, all of these attachments, all of this belief we put into other people saying, hey, you are going to make me happy. And nobody has that kind of power. And everybody has the right to choose whether they're going to meet our needs or not. So there too, if we get into a situation where we're craving that things were different than they are, we're going to be disappointed. Of course, we have the opportunity at all times, if we have this friendship where the person comes over to your house, eats all your food, never leaves, sleeps on the couch. You can decide that that friendship maybe isn't serving you so well and put an end to it. That's making a choice. But wishing that the guy who's on your couch and eating all your chips and never leaves were different, wishing that he was a different kind of person that didn't do that, that's just going to lead to your frustration. So non-attachment isn't about not caring. It's about seeing things as they are. It's about not fooling ourselves into believing that if we think hard enough, the cup's going to move across the table. If we wish hard enough, that traffic accident that we were in last night will have not happened. That's just self-deception. And in the end, instead of ensuring our happiness, it ensures exactly the opposite. That we'll be chronically unhappy. That we'll be out of touch with the way things are. And we'll find ourselves finally in a place where it's very difficult to move forward because we keep doing that wishful thinking. It's great to have dreams, it's great to have goals, and it's great to have aspirations. But if you hang your happiness on achieving those things, ultimately we all become disappointed. We all become less happy, and we all get caught in this cycle of suffering. And how to get out of it will be the next 2 weeks. All right.
Stay tuned.